Welcome to the Now I'm Ashley Jenkins.
And I'm a fellow kid.
Happy Halloween, everybody. It's a spooky day, and the news is suitably spooky. If a video game company deciding to take away all your games on a whim sounds, well, too spooky to be true, think again, it's not.
Because that's exactly what happened recently when EA banned an entire country from their Origin platform, making it, that's not the noise it makes, making it impossible for anyone to play their game. Sounds more like this. That's what it sounds like.
Right. So it's always good to have a reminder that you don't actually own your video games that you purchased. Fortunately, EA says they are working to resolve the situation, but once again, it's prompting a discussion about the ugly nature of video game DRM.
The solution is you should move to a different country. Everything kicked off this weekend thanks to a Reddit post from user Trivial Sublime. Trivial_Sublime. Not to be confused with the original Trivial Sublime. In a thread titled, EA Games and Origin quietly bans an entire country. Or, why you shouldn't take digital distribution for granted.
The essay.
Trivial_Sublime said that EA had blocked access to Origin for everyone in his country, Myanmar. But it'll always be Burma to me.
No. You can't say that. You're not dressed as that.
I can say whatever I want to. It's okay.
Trivial Sublime wrote that he could no longer play any of his Origin games, 20 in total. When he contacted EA, he was informed that this was due to a recent Origin update that restricted user access in a handful of countries in accordance with US law. And there was nothing that anybody could do about it. And no, he couldn't get a refund for his games either.
US law in other countries, apparently. This update to Origin went live sometime in September, instituting bans on any country that the US has a trade embargo with. It also applies to Cuba, Iran, North Korea, Sudan, Syria, and parts of the Ukraine. You know who you are. However, the US actually ended its trade embargo with Myanmar earlier this month on October 7th.
So basically, EA just didn't realize or plain forgot to flip the switch back on for the people of Myanmar, which naturally didn't make Trivial_Sublime too happy. He wrote, "Remember, if they do it to me, they can do it to you too. Don't use or buy games from Origin or DRM services. They can take your content away without offering a refund."
Fortunately, it looks like EA has taken the complaints to heart, which tends to happen when a Reddit thread blows up to about 6,000 plus upvotes.
I'm not sure that it's Reddit alone. So much as the risk of extreme consumer lawsuits.
I'm just learning that everyone at EA reads Reddit. A couple of EA representatives have stopped by the thread and the Origin support forums to give a bit of an update about the situation and whether Myanmar is getting its games back.
But unfortunately, the messages from each of those employees seems a little bit mixed. EA representative Alex said on Reddit that EA is internally reviewing the situation and looking into whether and when service can be restored to Myanmar residents.
The whole whether and when don't sound very hopeful. However, EA representative Tom on Origin was a little more committal, writing, quote, "We're working to restore access to Origin for our players in Myanmar. We apologize for any inconvenience this may have caused, and we'll share updates on timing as soon as possible."
Oh, that Tom, he's a good egg.
Thanks, Tom.
Now that things are getting smoothed over with Myanmar, other gamers are making their voices heard. Because another Redditor from Iran posted a similar thread writing that despite US sanctions being lifted in Iran, the Origin ban is still ongoing for Iranians, meaning none of them could play their games either.
The funny thing is, a lot of these sanctions have been in place for years. The US embargo against Myanmar has been ongoing for decades, for instance, with the US only recently getting more lax about them.
Yeah, in a follow-up post, Trivial_Sublime wrote that the recently lifted sanctions had to do with banning individuals engaged in activities deemed against human interests, but there was nothing in US law against doing business in Myanmar in general.
So really, it seems like EA decided recently to cover its bases, legally speaking, so they wouldn't accidentally do business with the wrong people. They updated their platform to reflect those US trade sanctions, screwing over quite a few gamers in the process who had already been enjoying those games.
But then they didn't really pay attention to when the sanctions ended, leaving those gamers without any games to play, no updates about why it had happened, and out a lot of money.
So when you add that to their sort of ill-advised, quote, just WW1 things.
Oh, God.
Hashtag?
Yeah.
Too soon? That they tried to start up from Battlefield 1? All in all, not a superb PR weekend for EA.
While it's all well and good, this has been sorted and will hopefully be patched up soon for the countries still affected. This is, regardless of that, an ugly reminder about the current state of digital distribution and how harmful and overreaching DRM tends to be when it's misused. And given the increase in digital distribution for games in general, this is going to become more and more serious.
As convenient as it is that things are generally moving more towards digital, I'm a huge proponent of that myself. There are plenty of times when DRM has screwed over consumers through situations similar to what happened with gamers in Myanmar. Because apparently, most media companies can just take away all your shit at a moment's notice.
Back in 2012, Amazon proved they can wipe any Kindle of ebooks at any time, which is my personal horror story, as they infamously did to one user whose entire library got deleted by the company.
What is a Kindle with no books on it? It's just like...
doorstop?
It's literally a screen.
Yes. And back in 2009, they pissed off quite a few readers when they, in perhaps the most ironic move of all time, deleted 1984 and Animal Farm from customers' devices after a rights dispute.
That's called self-awareness, people. Moving back to video games, PC gamers were given a bit of a rude surprise when Microsoft announced that any physical versions of the game using the controversial Securom, is that how you say it? Securom?
Yeah, Securom.
Somebody's working hard at the acronym department for that one. And safe disk DRM measures would not work with Windows 10, affecting games like Chronicles of Riddick.
No,
Neverwinter's
not the
Night 2.
Chronicles of Riddick.
That was a very popular game, actually.
I know, it was actually really
Yeah,
good.
that, what's the franchise? The what dark? Pitch Black.
Pitch
There we
Black.
go. Yeah, arguably not a great movie franchise. People really do like the gaming franchise.
I like the movies.
I'm gonna get that on one of my big rewinds when I'm like looping back and picking up some of my back catalog. Also affects other games like Neverwinter Nights 2, Fallout 3, Far Cry 2, Dead Space, and Spore.
Oh God,
Your
Spore.
mileage may vary there on how your DRM affects your life.
Right, because to be fair, those are all super old by now, and there are plenty of ways to get the digital versions of those. I mean, as long as you're willing to buy them again. Plus, there are some workarounds to get them going in Windows, but still sucks for anyone who feels like dusting off an old game that you paid for only to find that you weren't only screwed by DRM when you bought it, you're screwed all over again because the DRM sucked so bad your OS won't support it.
Yeah, it's almost like the people who are yelling about it are right. It's also very well known that Valve says it can totally deactivate all your games at a moment's notice if you deny any updated terms of service agreements or violate their terms of service in general.
Or then there's just cases like this weekend's Halloween Steam sale when users purchased Splinter Cell Blacklist only to discover that Steam didn't actually have enough keys to distribute to customers, so they couldn't even play the game they just bought, and they still can't.
It happens.
Spooky!
You didn't stock enough inventory of the fake digital thing. Of course, we all know that this recent snafu with trade sanctions isn't EA's first DRM rodeo. There was the disastrous SimCity launch when EA's DRM basically broke the game for everybody. And then there's the matter of them just deciding to turn off certain games altogether, like they did when they deactivated Darkspore earlier this year.
And that affects an awful lot of us. The fuck's Darkspore?
What's that? It's a Spore DLC in which there's nothing on screen.
Sadly, a number of companies still employ DRM and the policies that enable to abuse it, leaving customers without many options to fight against it. It's part of what's led to a rise of popularity for certain services like GOG, offering DRM-free options for gamers, and hey, they even have a few EA games on there,
Wink,
so to
wink.
their credit.
So, fortunately, some in the industry are taking notice of how badly this practice affects its own consumers, which is why it's a nice breath of fresh air whenever someone like CD Projekt Red comes out and speaks against DRM, claiming that it doesn't actually do much at all to protect sales.
You're the real heroes. Yeah, it also has a nasty side effect of sometimes making your entire library unplayable, which is a pretty significant problem. There's always been kind of a fear that someone could, like Steam or EA, could do something like this if they wanted to, or if they just shut down one day. And we haven't seen it happen on this kind of scale, banning entire countries.
R.I.P. Vine.
And what's even scarier is that the only reason they fixed it is because enough people got mad about it, not because they realized on their own that there was maybe something wrong with it.
Let's hope others in the industry take notice of what happened this weekend and take steps to avoid it.
Yeah, so what do you guys think of EA taking away an entire country's games?
I bet they love it.
Yeah, let us know in the comments.
For future updates on the ongoing discussions about DRM, like this video and subscribe to The Know. We may turn off this video at some point in the future.
Spooky.
I'm gonna go smoke in the bathroom.
You did hold it so much. I'm really proud of you.